y'all, it's Bethany, and I am just finishing up editing this video. I actually filmed this video over 2 weeks ago now, and so much has happened in the past couple weeks that I felt like I just had to include this clip before I start the video, just so y'all, I don't know, just so I just needed to mention a few things. It has taken me quite a while to edit this because first of all the kids went back to school and that was busy, but then once I got into editing it, then everything happened over this past, well, it's been a week now, a week ago, when Charlie Kirk passed away and was assassinated, and that just, it was just very emotional. Like, even now I get emotional about it. I really grieved and mourned this as if I was mourning someone close to me. It has really hit me very hard. I have felt like you're sweet. I love you. It was just very emotional for me. Like, I didn't follow Charlie super closely, but I did watch his videos. His videos would show up on my Instagram and I'd watch them, and I thought he was very articulate, and he was really very well spoken in his beliefs and his discussions. And I had recently saw a video of him just talking about marriage and how God created man. He didn't create man to be alone. He created man for to have a spouse. And so I had shared that video on my Instagram, and just, as I've been flooded with videos, watching videos of him speak, how intelligent and articulate he was and how compassionate he was. Honestly, there are a lot of conservative media commentators, some of them Christian, some of them not Christian, that I don't really care for because they're very arrogant in their attitudes and they don't take the time to listen to the other side. And I feel like even if you disagree with the other side, you should still be compassionate and take the time to actually listen to them. A long time ago, I can't remember if maybe me and Clay talked about this, but if you want someone to listen to your opinions, then you've got to be willing to listen to theirs too, and like be willing to show them that you're willing to listen to what they have to say and not put them down. And just, I guess my thing is, there's quite a few commentators like Matt Walsh and Candace Owens and even Ben Shapiro that they're very intelligent, but they just come across as very arrogant in my opinion, and I don't listen to them because of that. Like, I used to listen to some of their stuff, but they're just super arrogant in my opinion, and their attitude is not Christ-like, in which I know they're not all Christians. I know Ben Shapiro is Jewish, but anyway, my point being, as I've watched more and more of Charlie's stuff, he was not like that at all. Like, he was very humble and eager to listen to what you had to say, as well as gently discuss his beliefs. And I just feel like that's very needful in this day and time. And anyway, I don't know, I could see that as I've watched a lot of his videos. A lot of the things, there were some things I disagree with, but a lot of the things he said very much I agree with, from a biblical standpoint. And anyway, it's just really impacted me. It's been very impactful as a fellow widow, and seeing his young children and seeing what happened, and just, it has felt so heavy this week. It has been such a heavy week, and I've cried so much over this. Probably the most I've ever cried over losing a public figure. And anyway, I'm just thankful. I know God is using this, and I know right now it might be hard for the people closest to him to understand or see, but I know as a widow how God can use something like this to bring good. I've seen it in my own loss and the loss of my husband, how there were people brought to Christ, and there were some great things done in the aftermath of losing him, some life-changing events, and so I know that God uses these things for his glory, and it's been amazing to see what he's doing in the aftermath of Charlie's death. But that being said, I just needed to comment a little bit. I feel like I've thought so much about it and watched so much, and sometimes I'm just like, I need a break from mentally just give myself time to rest. But I did feel like I couldn't post this video without having some kind of, at least a mention of this and everything that's going on. I just felt the need to talk about this just a bit. But anyway, my friends, I'm so thankful that the Lord is near to the brokenhearted, and most of all, he sees the big picture, and he knows the whole plan. He knows what's going to come of this. He sees it all, and I know that God is going to work in all of this. And so anyway, my sweet friends, I'm going to chat on here about books and the things that I love, books, but just wanted to mention this and just briefly talk about Charlie, the loss of Charlie, and just say that I want to carry that same light that he had and carry the gospel and not be ashamed of the truth. And I just want to be bold. And not only that, but have that burning desire within me to share the gospel. It's so easy to be complacent and not have the passion that we should have about sharing the gospel. I want to be bold, have a zeal for my faith. But anyway, y'all, I hope y'all enjoy the video, and I will talk to you guys next time. Hey y'all, it's Bethany here. Welcome back to my channel, Bethany Brings Books. I am excited to be doing this video today. We're going to be chatting about what I've been reading recently. So I haven't done a recent reads video in a while. Life has been just busy as usual. Had a few other videos that I was trying to work on and get out first, and then it took me a little while to kind of actually get enough books to really talk about, honestly. So I've been meaning to film this one for a while, but finally here we are. This is probably going to be July and August books, I think. Today's September the 1st, so let's dive into what I've been reading. So I mentioned, I think in my last wrap up, that I was rereading 2 books, We Redeem the Rain by Ashley Deal, and then also a beautiful book up here. Let's see if you can see it. Up there. Right there, guys. A Girl Called Samson. And I actually did a whole vlog reading that during the month of July. Go check that out because I love that book so much, and I had so much fun doing that vlog. So I'm not really going to chat about Samson because I did chat about it in the vlog, but I will just talk a little bit about We Redeem the Rain. One of my summer goals was to reread all of Ashley's books, or to read all of her books. She has 3 published. I've read 2 of them, and I wanted to reread them 2 and then read the first for the free. So far, I have reread We Redeem the Rain, and I am currently reading Hold Back the River, I think is what it's called. Working my way through that. It's probably going to go into the fall, of course. Let's chat about this one. So,
snakeskin.
Snakeskin?
Yeah.
Where at?
On the barn.
What side of the barn was it on?
The very back. At this corner where all those cracks are. Mama.
What?
I think the snake would have been from here all the way to there.
Can you take that outside? Their adventures of finding a snakeskin outside. They're enjoying their the weather is beautiful, so they're enjoying this last day before they have to go back to school. Not tomorrow, but the next day they're going back to school. So anyway, I reread this. Such an emotional, heart-wrenching read, but so beautifully done. I love Ashley's writing, y'all. Ashley is like my favorite author. I love her writing so much. Let's just start with a couple of things that, the content things and a couple of things about this, and then I'll talk about the parts that I love. But I will say that I feel like this book of her 3 has a lot more language than the first 2. It's mild language, but it is it's pretty frequent in here, and I don't like that. But I do feel like that it's not gratuitous. It kind of fits the characters and their circumstances. Not that I will enjoy reading the language. I wish it was not in there, and I wish like her future books would not have as much language. And so that is the big thing about this book, that the issue that I have. There's like a couple of other different scenes. There's one where they like go swimming in their underwear. There's just a few little scenes like that in the book that I don't personally like, but overall, other than those few scenes and things, I do think this is such a good book. 4.5 to 5 stars. I would say it's just so beautifully done, and just I enjoyed savoring this time and reading my way through it and just relishing the characters. I really felt like this time reading through this that the characters became like family. Like reading it slowly, I just got attached to these characters. And we have Tag, who is a rancher who has been kind of isolating himself for years. He grew up in a really, really bad environment, and he was sexually abused as a child. And so all of that past trauma has affected him even today, and he has never really learned how to deal with it properly. And so his childhood pen pal is brought into his life. And as she's beginning to spend time with him at the ranch, they begin to develop feelings for each other and unpack just all of the emotional baggage of the past. His pen pal, her name is B, and she is an indie musician. And so she's taking a break at this point, trying to figure out what direction she wants her career to go in. And so she decides to go back to this ranch that she visited as a kid, and because she had become pen pals with one of the guys from the ranch, and then they quit writing years ago. And so she's like, I think I'm gonna go back here and try to get some rest and reconnect. And of course, this leads to them developing a relationship with each other. And I just love Ashley's writing. It's so beautifully done. It's just she writes characters so well. She writes their internal struggle so well. I love the side characters as well, and I'm so ready to see their stories. It's such a beautiful story, and I tabbed this up this time around and highlighted. I didn't even tab everything that I highlighted. There's like so many sections that I highlighted, but a few quotes. I think the first really quote that is so meaningful is, "Stories are meant to be told even if they're hard. Every person should find someone to share their story with. Every person should be known by somebody at least a little." This one, oh, yeah. This one, I think it made me cry. I can't remember. He's like having a conversation with B, and he says he's thinking to himself, talking to him about, has he always been alone? Does he have anybody in his life? And he's thinking to himself, the only people I could depend on drew a paycheck for me. I couldn't look at her after admitting such a thing. For the first time, I wished I dated or had other siblings or a relationship with my mom or something, just so I could prove to B I was valuable, that I could show her there was someone else in the world who cared. Here was B, beloved singer, sister, and daughter. She had a promising future, a good family, talent, and stability. Then there was me, broke, loner cowboy who couldn't even get his own mother's attention. It's gonna make me cry, y'all. I wrote, sob my heart, oh Tag. A voice familiar and sickening filled my head. I am nothing. I am nothing. I pushed the voice back, refusing to listen right here and now. Tag. He just is so precious. So yeah, this one is beautiful. Ashley's writing is just, it's special. Then I read The Secret of the Wooden Lady, which is a Nancy Drew book. I have been trying to do a vlog reading different Nancy Drew books, and it still has not come together. I've been talking about how I'm doing this vlog. I tried doing one several years ago, and it didn't come together. So we're going to try it, but I don't know yet. I've only read this one, and I'm working on the second one. And I wanted to read like 5 or 6 altogether, like one from each of the different series, Nancy Drew series. So we're going to go ahead and just chat about this a little bit. But if I ever get the vlog together, y'all will see that eventually. If not, you won't see it. But this is Nancy Drew number 27. And fun fact, I had actually never read this. As I was reading it, I was like, I don't remember this. And this one was pretty fun. I thought it was actually pretty good for the Nancy Drew series. More so just because of the setting. Like, overall, a lot of the story was not very believable. Of course, it's Nancy Drew. But the setting was fun. It was like in Nancy and her father gets called to Boston. This man is trying to buy this ship that he has like lived on for a while, or I think he's like been the captain on it for a while or something. Anyway, he's trying to buy the ship. And the sailor the seller does not have the deed or the title or whatever documents he needs. So Mr. Drew comes, and then there's this mystery, like someone's trying to get the man off of the boat, and so Nancy's trying to solve it. And the mystery itself was very like coincidental. Like in the end, the whole thing was kind of just a coincidence that Nancy even ends up involved in it. So that was not very realistic, but it was fun. I just enjoyed like the setting, like it being on a boat and a ship, and it was in Boston, and just historic stuff was pretty fun. So I enjoyed that. I don't remember how many stars I gave it, but that was fun. Then I reread Northanger Abbey with my dear friends Kelly from Kelly Reads a Lot and Shannon from Old American Spirit, and we read this for July, Jane Austen July, and this was my second time reading it. And I have to say, guys, I did not enjoy this as much as I did the first time. Jane, of course, has her writing where you're laughing. Like, there's so many funny quotes in it and so many funny characters and just things that were funny. But I think that was probably one of my issues with this, was the characters. Catherine was just so immature in this. And I had forgotten how, like, when she goes to Northanger Abbey, how dramatically her imagination runs away with her, and she just is such an immature character. And then combined with Mr. and Mrs. Thorpe, is that who it is? Mr. and Mrs. Thorpe, Miss Thorpe and Mr. Thorpe, the brother and sister. They are so annoying, like probably the most annoying characters that Jane Austen has ever written, in my humble opinion. They really got on my nerves this time around, and yeah, they irked me so bad. So yeah, this has dropped to the bottom of my list. Sense and Sensibility is very bottom of my list, and this is above it. But again, it was a delightful. It was just delightful to reread this with my friends. And as always, like I mentioned in another video, Jane Austen, of course, all of her books are great, but in the overall ranking of Jane Austen books, this one it's closer to the bottom for me now. I did read this third Felicity book, and I've read the first 3 so far. I probably won't finish rereading them this year. I'll probably pick them back up next year, but I was trying to reread this series, and I love this. I love all 3 books. I feel like for me, all 3 of these books in the series that I've read are 5 stars. Of all the American Girl books that I've been rereading the past couple of years, this is my favorite. I think they're just really, really well done, and I just love the colonial Williamsburg setting. So, and then I read quite a few different library books. So I don't know what it is, but I suddenly got in this mood of reading like Lynn Blackburn and Susan May Warren. So I've read 2 Susan May Warren books and 2 Lynn Blackburn books over the past month, like back to back, which is, I don't usually do that. I don't usually like binge a series like that, but these, I don't know, I was just in the mood for them. They were very easy to read. They were scratching that itch of just a good adventure story. So, me and Bailey, my best friend Bailey, we had been talking about doing another buddy read. It's been a while since we've done one, and so we decided on the Lynn Blackburn series, her Dive Team Investigation series, and well, we decided on the first book. It's one I've been wanting to read for a while, and so we decided to read that one, and we read the first and the second one, and we're planning to read the next one. But yeah, it was just really interesting. We wanted to keep going with the series after we started it, and the first book in the series is called Beneath the Surface, and overall, I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. What I really enjoyed about it was the characters and the side characters and the romance. The mystery itself for me was not. It was kind of about a serial killer. So it wasn't really my thing. I don't really do serial killers, but so there's this nurse. She lives on this lake, and the dive team is doing a dive team is doing training in the lake, and they find a body in the lake, and her house is also on the lake, so they end up having to kind of use her dock or whatever. One of the divers, he knew her, I think, growing up. I think they knew each other in high school. He kind of is one of the ones helping investigate this. They're trying to figure out, like, they found this body, so they've got to start trying to figure out who this person is and identify this person. And then stuff starts happening to the nurse who lives there on the lake, and it's like someone is kind of out to get her. So they're trying to figure out what's going on, who's out to get her, and it is that mystery. But like I said, for me, Lynn Blackburn, what she really excels at is the romance and the characters, especially her male characters. I don't know, she just does such a really great job with them. So this was 4 stars for me, and it definitely made me interested in reading the next book in the series. So we went ahead and picked up the next one, In Too Deep. This is about another investigator on the dive team. Is it Gabe? I think it's Gabe. There's a professor at a college who the dive team and the police department and stuff, she helps them sometimes with some of their computer stuff. She's like does computer science. Someone finds this car wrecked into this big lake, and there's a body inside dead, and so the dive team asks, or the police department or whatever asks, I think her name is Sabrina, maybe, or something with an S. Anyway, they ask her to help them decode or unencrypt this, some of the stuff that they found on this lady's laptop, I think. Before she died, she had written on her body that she had written a note that, like, basically lets them know, like, she was murdered. And she references one of the guys on the dive team. And so then he realizes that this woman had recently come in to talk to him and share some information with him, and he wasn't there that day. And so she left, and she was going to, like, come back and get up with him and share some information with him about something. She didn't say what she wanted to talk to him about. And so, anyway, now he's like, okay, what's going on? Like, why, if I would have been there to talk to her, maybe she wouldn't be dead. And now he's trying to figure out what's going on with this. And they, like I said, they bring in the college professor, and she begins to try to decode or unencrypt this lady's files to figure out what's going on. It's a mystery that begins to unravel. And once again, there's kind of some threats being made on the main character's life, the main female character, and so then the main guy begins to try to figure out what's going on with that, and they're investigating the mystery, and then at the same time they're falling for each other. And the interesting thing about this was that the main female character, it seemed pretty obvious that she was on the spectrum. It's never stated, but just her character, it very much seemed like she was definitely on the spectrum. And so that was an interesting element. It was not something that I've really read much in a book, so I thought that was interesting. But it it sometimes did make it a little bit harder to connect with her character, and her character felt a little bit flat at times. But I really enjoyed reading another perspective like that. I'm glad that Lynn brought that perspective into the story. I like this one better than the first. I like the characters better. I like the storyline better. I thought the storyline was more interesting, in my opinion. Overall, just a good suspense story. Again, the mystery, the suspense is not what I'm here for in these books. It is Lynn's writing, her characters, and I really wish she would release a contemporary romance series because I would eat it up. And then I read the 2 Susan May Warren books, so I don't know, I just was like, you know what, I'm kind of in the mood for something a little different. And so when I was at the library, I picked up a couple of books in this series, and I had started reading the first book like a couple years ago, and I read like half of it, and then I just got sidetracked with other books and put it down and never finished it. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to pick this series back up, because I remember there were characters in it that I thought their stories were very interesting, and I was hoping to eventually get to their stories. So I picked it up and I read the second and third, and the second one was called Rescue Me, and then the third is A Matter of Trust. And this is very much like a rescue, adventure, search and rescue type series, and I feel like she writes a lot of that now. Like a lot of her series are kind of along that line. And that's basically what this is. And so it basically centers around this peak rescue team and the different members on this team. And so this one focuses on Sam, who is the sheriff of this town, and he has had this crush on Willow, who volunteers at the church. Her sister is a member of the Peak Rescue Team, but she's not. She volunteers at the church, and she loves working with young people and stuff. And he has not. I got that wrong. She has had a huge crush on him. He is actually dating her sister. But it's kind of like he's interested in her sister, but he also knows that her sister has had this crush on the guy that her sister used to work for. And then they had this falling out, and her sister quit working for the guy, and so now her sister's kind of been dating Sam. Just honestly, it's like even Sam kind of knows in his heart that she's not really over the other guy, but he's just dating her he kind of just is ready to settle down, and he's trying to see if something can develop there. Willow secretly has this huge crush on Sam, and so some circumstances happen, and they end up stranded with a group of young people, like a group of the young people from the church. They get in a car crash, and they end up stranded on a mountain. And so really it is very much a survival rescue story. Like I said, these just scratched an itch that I had for really light reading with some drama, some things going on. Fun to read when I'm in the mood for them. Now, if you get mad about character, like a third act breakup or some kind of drama at the end like that, or if you get mad about characters that don't communicate very well at times, then this series will probably irritate you, because it has its flaws. It has its things like that I don't like. Overall, it's just very fun and lighthearted. So, with deeper themes and some drama and stuff. So anyway, this one, they're stranded. So most of the book takes period over just a few days, which that's not really my thing. When I saw that they got in this accident, I was like, oh Lord, they're going to be out here a long time. And that's basically what it was. Most of the book was them trying to figure out how to escape the situation. And then her and Sam are starting to be attracted to each other. And I didn't really like that part. I don't like books that kind of take place over a few days. Most of the book is in one area, like them on the mountain trying to escape. What I do like though is that I have a love-hate relationship with this. So Susan May Warren always writes 4 characters. She'll have a main character and then a side character, and you'll switch between all 4 of their POVs. And sometimes it irks me, because I'm like, I just want to read about this main character. I want to know what's going on with them. So then when I'm reading the next character, I'm kind of ready to go back to the main one. Or sometimes I even get attached to the side character and then want to skip over the main one. But then I also like that because we continue to see, like, even later on in the series, you'll see some of the characters from the earlier books. So it's kind of like you can continue to see these characters as they grow in their relationships with each other and stuff. So I like that. So yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with that. But I do like it. I like that you get to see an extended look at these characters' lives. You know, their problems don't all just resolve in the first book, like we see that they continue sometimes to have problems and things that they have to work through in other books. So I like that. Let me finish this right fast. So if you don't like cheating, then you might not like this. Like, I don't like books that have cheating in them at all. Like, no, I don't like that. No, I'm not saying, like, if it's a story that's been done to someone, not that. I can read books like that, but I don't like books where the two main characters are cheating. And 100% not if they're married, but even dating sometimes is icky to me. So this one I was kind of like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this, but I think for me, I had read, but so I knew some of her story, and I knew that she was really in love with this other guy, and that this was kind of like, this relationship with Sam was not serious. It was like a rebound thing, like her trying to get over the other guy. And I think Sam knew that too. So they both, I think, kind of knew deep in their hearts that they weren't the one for each other. So that was why it didn't bother me as much with this story. But there is that. I just want to make a note of that because I know some people just really don't like that. So the next one that I read in the series is about Gabe. He is a snowboarder. He was like a pro champion snowboarder, and an accident happened several years ago, and he ended up leaving like the professional career doing that, and now he works for the team helping rescue people in different scenarios and storms and stuff. And right before this accident happened several years ago, we get like flashbacks of this. This lady, this woman, he met her at a resort, and they instantly hit it off, and kind of like, it has a little bit of an insta love, like they immediately were attracted to each other and fell for each other. But then this huge accident happens, and they're both involved in this accident in a way, and so it ends up, after the accident, she's a lawyer, and so after the accident, this ends up going to court, and she's the lawyer that has to like work on this case against I think his name is Gabe again. She has to do this case against him, and so he just feels very betrayed by her because they were before this accident, they were like hitting it off and wanting to get to know each other better, and then this accident happens, and then now that it's gone to court, this is like the first time he's seen her since the accident, I think, and so there's just a whole backstory behind it. But anyway, so he's now 3 years later, he's now working with this rescue team, and she comes out there to this resort with her good friend, and she is reconnected with Gabe, and of course there's like some animosity and like confusion and over their past together, and everything, all the drama that drove them apart, and ends up having to go to Gabe to help rescue her brother because her brother ends up getting stuck on the mountain. And so again, it was a story where a lot of the story takes place in this high risk, dangerous situation where they're trying to escape and basically survive, like a survival story. I felt like this one was just a little bit dramatic. Some of the relationship stuff, it was like some of the things they didn't talk through. They just kind of immediately jumped to assumptions about some things, and it could have saved them a whole lot of heartache if they wouldn't have. Overall, it was kind of interesting learning a little bit more about snowboarding and stuff. There was a lot of the lingo that I didn't really understand because she used a lot of like snowboarding lingo. So some of the stuff I didn't understand. But overall, I think it was like maybe 3.5, 4 stars. I love how Susan May Warren writes extended series, and we see characters who often have these backstories and these things that have happened to them in the past that they're dealing with, and how I love the big character, the connectedness of the characters and their stories and the extended storylines. I really enjoy that. So I do like Susan May Warren's writing for that. I like how easy her books are to read. So I finally finished reading The Lace Maker by Laura France. So I have been reading this book for a while now, and y'all, I've just been over the summer. I've been in the mood of picking up so many books and like starting them, and then I'll put them down and start something else, and then I'll read in something else, and then I'll go back to the other one. So I have several books that I've been reading for the past few months and just kind of put on hold and read other stuff, and then gone back to these books, and this one is one of them. But it was a library book, and I was like, I've got to finish this book because I got quite far into it, and I knew I needed to finish it so I could take it back to the library. But 5 stars for me. This is the second Laura France book that I've read, and both of her books I gave 5 stars because they were just so well done when it comes to historical detail. Now, for me, her books are slow reads, the ones that I've read. Like, this one was very slow in my opinion. Something that I've noticed in both of the books that I read, the like 70% of the book was slow, and then the last 30%, so much stuff starts happening. And both of the books, like, so much stuff starts happening, and then there's like, you're almost at the end of the book and you're thinking, how is she going to tie all this stuff up that's happening? Like, how is she going to tie all this up in these last few pages? And she did in both of the books that I read, but I loved the historic detail. These stick with me not for how fast-paced they are, not for how exciting they are, but for how much I've learned from them. This one was set in colonial Williamsburg, and I loved the setting, reading about Williamsburg, and this guy who is helping all of the independence men in Williamsburg. He talks to Patrick Henry a lot. It was interesting reading this after I went to Williamsburg this year because we toured the governor's palace, and they talked about Governor Dunmore and him and his family fleeing. And so reading this, it was really fun because we have this main character who she's friends with Governor Dunmore's children, and her father's a loyalist, and her mother's kind of has patriot leanings. And so all of this upheaval happens, and her father flees, and she's left there alone because her mother is traveling back from England. And so she's left there alone, and her life is basically in uproar now because in colonial Williamsburg, the Patriots are kind of taking over, and her home is going to be auctioned off, and all her things are going to be auctioned off. And so she decides to take on take a job as a lace maker and working at a local tavern. And it's just I feel like these books are very slice of life. Just we see day to day, like her trying to survive, and she's also slowly becoming attached to the main male character, who is a patriot, and he's falling for her and trying to figure out how he can help her survive alone now because her father's basically like abandoned her, and he's staying out on a ship and with Governor Dunmore, and her mom is her father's trying to get her mom committed to an asylum because of her patriotic views and her patriot views. So yeah, and then towards the end some things start happening, and it was interesting, like I said, and I enjoy these for the history. I think if you like history, you'll like these. I don't think they would be for everyone because I know not everyone loves history the way I do, and so if you don't love history, they are definitely slower reads, and they might not intrigue you as much, but I just enjoy all the historical details to these. Lastly, I read a book called Desert Thorns by Skylar J. Kent. I put in an application to read an arc of this, and I was selected and was so excited to read this. And y'all know I've talked about her book Gold Digger so many times. It's one of my favorite books of the year, an all-time favorite book, the second book in that series, and I've been so excited to read it. So this I gave 4.5 stars. I overall really enjoyed it. It's probably one of the most impactful books that I've read this year for me personally. So in the first book, we see a few glimpses of Kingston. Kingston. I don't know why I keep wanting to call him Kingsley, but it's Kingston. He is a monk at a local monastery on this island, and we see brief glimpses of him. But he grew up in this family where we kind of see more of his, a little bit of his backstory in the first one. Him and his siblings grew up in this family where the parents were just not good parents, and not like abusive, but like not like physically abusive, but like mentally and just emotionally abusive. And they were very rich. But anyway, Kingston decided that he wanted to go be a monk, and so go like he decided to go to a monastery and see how that is. And so he's been there for several years, and he's almost to the process of becoming a priest when this woman climbs over the wall of the monastery, and she's obviously running from something. And her name is Harley, and she has witnessed a murder, and she's running from the person that committed the murder. And she takes refuge there at the monastery, and her and Kingston immediately become attracted to each other. And I think this book really has a very much of a theme and a purpose in its storyline, and you could see that. Like, Skylar was definitely writing to people who have struggled with sexual temptation, who have fallen into sexual sin, and have walked through those struggles and trials. And so that is like really the theme of this book, and you can tell that's what she was driving at. And so we see Kingston and Harley as they fall into sexual temptation, as they're attracted to each other. And I think one of the things probably was Kingston was he had been there at this monastery for several years, so obviously a woman being on the grounds is immediately like, whoa, like he's not used to that. So definitely there was a bit of an insta attraction and a love kind of thing, but it was done well. And so Harley also struggles, like this is something she talks about, she struggled with for years. And so there's so much depth to this when it comes to like discussing sexual temptation and falling into sexual sin and getting God's forgiveness, and not continuing to dwell in the shame, but also not continuing to sin, finding freedom from the sin, finding freedom from the shame. Of course, Kingston, this is for him just devastating, because falling into this type of sin is devastating because he's on his way to becoming a priest. And Harley is just feels like she's drug him into her own problems, and because she's struggled for years. And so there's a lot of really good conversations with her and her friends about their different struggles, conversations about struggling with smut and struggling with pornography and struggling, sexually in their behaviors. And Kingston, then he also has deep conversations with his brother, who is a new Christian, about his struggles, and with other Christians about his struggles. And so there's some really, really good conversations. And if I had a physical copy, I would read some of the quotes, because there are some beautiful quotes in this story about God's forgiveness and grace. But I don't have a physical copy because it's not out yet, but I can't wait to get a physical copy. It was beautiful. It was really beautifully done. Um, there's some consequences and things that they have to go through, and there's also a bit of a mystery through the story. But it was definitely, if you struggle with sexual temptation, sexual sin, if it's something that you've had issues with, it is a very beautiful story. I think for me personally, like I've talked about in my review, it really hit home for me. It was very impactful for me, just because as a widow, it is hard. I was married for 4.5 years, and you were used to all the things that come along with being married and having that physical relationship with your spouse. And so going from being married to not married anymore, and still, initially you're just going through the grief process, but here, years later, you begin to, these needs arise and these desires. And so yes, it has been a struggle. over the past couple of years and year and a half, a couple of years probably more so, just dealing with that as a widow and the fact that I'm not married anymore and still have desires and things. So it really spoke to my heart and really touched me. It was very impactful for me in that way. Very, very, very much so. So I highly recommend, if that's something that you've struggled with or you want to learn more about, to kind of connect with others that struggle in that area. Um, it was beautifully written. I love Skylar's writing style. She is one of my favorite authors. Like already, I've read 2 of her books, and she's one of my favorite authors. And can't wait to read more of this. There's a side character that she's going to be writing his book. I think his book is coming out next year, maybe. His name is Rome, and he has a past too. Some things that have happened to him that are very tragic, but yeah, I just can't read his story either. There were just a couple of things that I would have liked to see more of in this. One was, um, it is, the story and their struggle is very much the big focus of the plot, and so there were some side things that came into the story that I wish we could have seen more explored. One of those things is something that's mentioned a couple of times that happened to Kingston when he was young. He saw something happen to his sister. Very, very traumatic. And this is mentioned a few times, but I would love to have seen more of a character, some depth to that part of the story with him, because it was so traumatic that I feel like it would have been beautiful just to see him dealing with this with therapy and healing from this, and just kind of exploring how that impacted who he was. Um, that just some of those themes, like exploring some of the characters at a deeper level in their past and how it's affecting them now. And then also, I would have liked to seen a little bit more conversations about not just the fact that yes, we fall into sexual temptation, and it can be, a struggle. We go through the shame and the guilt, and we need forgiveness. But also, I would have liked to seen a little bit of discussion about the beauty that it is. Sexual temptation is not, and is not always a bad thing. If you're human, you're going to be tempted because that's a part of how God created us with those desires. And so it's not necessarily a sin to always be tempted sexually, because that is part of what, you're meant to, that's how we were created. But it is a sin to give into those temptations. So I would have liked to see, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I would have liked to see just some conversations about how sex is good, it's God-given, and when done right within marriage, it's beautiful. That desire is not shameful. So, yeah. But overall, like I said, the story meant so much to me and was so impactful for me, and I really appreciate Skylar diving into this and being bold to address this topic, and I appreciate her writing and her giving me a chance to read and review this. I thought it was a beautiful story. So, guys, that's what I have been reading lately, and I got really long-winded with this one, y'all. I said I have been putting this off, and now I've read so many books and have taken so much time talking about this. I shouldn't have put it off so long. But here we are, guys. Here we are. And that is my wrap-up. Been reading a lot of contemporary, as y'all can tell. I think as it's transitioning into fall, I'm probably going to really start reading more classics and more historical. So, y'all stay tuned for that. But anyway, guys, I will talk to y'all in my next video. Thank y'all for watching. Bye.